For centuries, Bahima pastoralists have been wandering with their cattle along the grass plains of central Uganda. The Ankole are one of the oldest indigenous cattle breeds. Their long horns assist their blood circulation and help keep them cool. They are renowned for their hardiness, which allows them to live off poor quality vegetation and limited amounts of water. For Elizabeth Katushabe, they are more than a source of income.
As a person born from the Bahima community, I really believe that our heritage should not be lost. I think this cow, the Ankole longhorn cow of Uganda, is an identity. And it's a hardy animal in this environment. It's adaptable to our harsh environment, and it has actually helped us protect our environment.
But the Ankole have a powerful rival, the black and white checked Frisian Holstein, the world's predominant dairy cattle bred for maximum yield. The owner of this herd replaced all his Ankole cows with these foreign imports. But Frisian Holsteins are poorly equipped to deal with the Ugandan environment, forcing the herders to deploy high quantities of insecticides and antibiotics, the only protection against endemic ticks and parasites. Since the introduction of chemical acaricides, the bees left and even other insects and animals also left. Since there are no more bees, we can no longer harvest honey. Also, many trees have been cut here to make space for the cattle. There used to be many trees and there were thick bushes, and thus bees used to have hiding places. As a member of the Ankole Cattle Conservation Association, Elizabeth Katushabe visits farmers across the country and explains why it is important to preserve their pure breeds. She convinced farmer Daniel Ndiamuhaki to reintroduce Ankole into his herds. With costs for veterinary medicine exploding, many farmers have been re-evaluating the long-horned cattle's economic value.
I realize it's psychology. They have believed because the government policy was to increase production, modernize agriculture. So many of them at a certain level say, oh, yeah, we get a lot of milk, but really we put a lot of drugs, we buy a lot of chemical sprays for the tick, and we don't really get a lot of money.
In Kampala, Elizabeth Katushabe lobbies together with the organization Food Rights Alliance for the government to take decisive action to preserve the indigenous species. Scientists are concerned. Rampant crossbreeding has severely reduced the population of purebred Ankole. They fear that Uganda may be sacrificing a breed with genetic advantages.
Our call for the protection of our genetic resources is not for the sake of it. It is an issue of our identity. It is an issue of sustaining our farming systems. It is an issue of sustaining our food systems. It is our issue of what we have to offer in the global market.
For Elizabeth Katushabe, this is not only a Ugandan issue. Across the continent, indigenous livestock species are vanishing. The world's food supply is increasingly dependent on a narrowing list of highly engineered breeds, a threat to food security and ecological sustainability.
So we should find means and ways of, living with the indigenous breeds, because they can keep the ecosystem properly. So we should not only think about producing a lot of food, but we should think about what kind of food we are producing.
With rising temperatures across the globe and an environment that is becoming more inhospitable to the major breeds, humanity might need the genes that allow animals like the Ankole to flourish in the African heat.